Hello, this is One Life for Fights. The next UFC event will take place at TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts on Friday, with UFC on ESPN 6, which takes place with a 13-fight lineup. In anticipation of the event, we'll share with you the most interesting facts about the fighters of UFC on ESPN 6. A key light heavyweight matchup takes place in the main event. Undefeated Dominick Reyes will attempt to push himself to the top of the list of title contenders when he welcomes former UFC middleweight champ Chris Weidman to the division, with Weidman looking to make a quick splash. This is the first headlining fight for Reyes. His 5-fight UFC winning streak at light heavyweight is the longest active streak in the division. Being an outstanding fighter, Reyes has earned 8 of his 11 career victories by first-round stoppage. That includes 3 of his 5 UFC wins. Reyes lands 5.05 significant strikes per minute in UFC light heavyweight competition, the second highest rate among active fighters in the weight class, behind Ion Cutelaba. Reyes' 29-second knockout of Joachim Christensen at UFC Fight Night 112 marked the second fastest stoppage by any debuting light heavyweight in UFC history, behind Ryan Gimo's 7-second win at UFC 149. Reyes defends 85.7% of all opponent takedown attempts in UFC light heavyweight competition, the third highest rate in divisional history, behind John Jones at 95% and Gimo at 87.5%. Weidman competes in his 6th UFC main event. He's had 5 wins and no losses in previous headliner. Weidman moves up to the light heavyweight division for the first time. His previous 18 career fights came at middleweight of a 190-pound catchweight. Weidman became the first male fighter in UFC history to win a championship with an undefeated record and go on to successfully defend the belt more than once when he defeated Lyoto Machida at UFC 175. Weidman is 1 win to 4 losses in his past 5 UFC appearances dating back to December 2015. Weidman has outstruck his opponent in all 10 of his UFC victories. Weidman had completed at least 1 takedown in all 14 of his UFC appearances. Weidman's 37 takedowns landed in UFC middleweight competition are tied with Thales ladies for most in divisional history. The co-main event of the evening will be the fight between Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stephens. Yair Rodriguez has earned all 3 of his UFC stoppage victories by knockout. Rodriguez's knockout of Chan Sung-jung at the 4:59 mark of round 5 at UFC Fight Night 139 is tied with Demetrious Johnson's finish at UFC 186 for the latest stoppage in a UFC fight. Rodriguez's 6 Fight Night bonuses in UFC featherweight bouts are tied for 4th most in divisional history, behind Cub Swanson, Max Holloway, and Chan Sung-jung. Jeremy Stephens vs Rodriguez at UFC on ESPN Plus 17 marked the second fastest no content in UFC history, behind the 11-second end between Antonio Carlos Jr. and Kevin Casey at UFC Fight Night 80 in December 2015. Stephens makes his 32nd UFC appearance, the 3rd most in company history, behind Jim Miller with 33 appearances and Donald Cerrone also with 33. Stephens is 8 wins, 7 losses, with 1 no contest, since he dropped to the UFC featherweight division in May 2013. Stephens' 18 knockdowns landed in the UFC competition are tied with Anderson Silva for 2nd most in company history, behind Cerrone with 20. Stephens' 11 knockdowns landed in UFC featherweight competition are most in divisional history. Stephens' 5 knockdowns landed at UFC 215 are tied for the single-fight UFC record set by Forrest Petz vs Sam Morgan at UFC Fight Night 6 in 2006. Stephens is one of 7 fighters in UFC featherweight history to earn a knockout victory stemming from a head kick. He accomplished the feat at UFC Fight Night 32. Stephens' 15 losses in UFC competition are the most in company history. Stephens' 11 decision losses in UFC competition are most in company history. Speaking of the other fights of the evening, we have also prepared some interesting facts for you. Macy Barber, 21, is the youngest of the 26 fighters scheduled to compete at the event. Barber has earned 6 of her 7 career victories by stoppage. That includes both of her UFC wins. Gillian Robertson competes in her 6th UFC women's flyweight bout, the most appearances in divisional history. Robertson's 4 victories in UFC women's flyweight competition are tied with Valentina Shevchenko and Joanne Calderwood for most in divisional history. Robertson's 4 stoppage victories in UFC women's flyweight competition are most in divisional history. Robertson's 3 submission victories in the UFC women's flyweight competition are tied with Montana De La Rosa for most in divisional history. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you liked the video, please click on the like button. To keep up with the latest MMA news, please subscribe and click on the bell to be notified of our new videos.